Welcome to the Uncensored Entrepreneurs Podcast, the real, raw, and unfiltered show where the rulebook is optional and authenticity is non-negotiable. I'm your host, Robert Wall, with my amazing co-host today, Star Cod, and today we're diving into one of our most hyped and misunderstood business buzzwords out there, Recession-Proof. Is it just a sexy marketing term, or is there real strategy behind building a business that doesn't just survive, but scales during economic chaos? In a world full of fear, headlines, and hesitation, we're pulling back the curtain on what it actually takes to thrive right now in this economy. So buckle up, because if you're looking for sugar-coated advice, you're in the wrong place. But if you want a recession-proof mindset, money, and mission, then this is the place to be. We'll see you on the inside. And we are back. Recession-proof or delusional? What do you think, Star?
Well, it's very important to make your business recession-proof. I know a few years ago, gas prices started going up and everybody was kind of freaking out. And a lot of things shifted. And there was this big hope that, okay, as soon as, the elections happen, we're going to be stabilized. But these things take time, right?
Genius, right? Just like that, everyone was ready. Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, so it's two sides of my business, but I deal a great deal in real estate as well. And it was the same thing, right? Whether it was commercial or residential, everyone was sitting there going, well, I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold off. I'm not going to pull that trigger. I'm waiting for rates to come down. And they have come down a little bit, like in that space. But again, this does take time. Quite honestly, if it happened too fast, other things would happen, right? We would actually see the price of everything go up. If rates were coming down. And so with that adverse thing, it takes time to balance things out. And so I'm seeing that obviously on both sides of my business. What are some things that you're seeing right now? I know there's been kind of a major impact with some of your stuff because you have cost of goods from overseas and other places.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the first thing is resilience. So we talk about, like you were saying, people were just kind of not doing anything. We're just going to wait. And that's definitely not the thing to do. And so, yeah, I have a product-based business as well as a service-based business. And yes, I've been impacted on both sides. In fact, when it was like, oh, we're going to go up on tariffs for 20%. Well, I got my first FedEx bill and yeah. I was charged for that. So it's really important that you adjust your business based on what's happening. Do you have to raise your prices? Can you negotiate with your vendor? So initially, I did actually raise my prices on my website. And I'm like, well, what makes my product not as good as anybody else's? Eggs are increasing. All businesses have had to increase their products if I want to stay in business, right? But I have since been able to also connect with my vendors to try to work something out. And so they said, whenever I do get any type of invoice like that, they'll give me a deduction on my next order. So yeah.
I love that. And that's really I'm glad you said resilience, because most people have this misconception, right? That recession-proof means bulletproof, that nothing bad is going to happen. It really is just having the tools, the mindset, the aptitude, the ability and willingness to adjust and pivot when these things come up. And really, ultimately, that is the definition of recession-proof, because you either, one, close your doors and you're out of business, or you figure out a way to adapt. And so you're absolutely doing that. And I'm glad that you didn't just stop there. So many other people will just drive the prices up, and that becomes the new norm, right? And so at the end of the day, it's the consumers that actually pay for that. I know, because we are consumers as well. So yes, prices need to go up to adjust. I would imagine shipping, right? Shipping has gone up. the cost of gasoline, diesel for trucks that are bringing things in and out. All of those things have gone up, which then gets passed on to the consumer. But while you were driving your prices up, I think that is the key of what we're going to be talking about on today's show. How do we adjust? How do we pivot? And in that case, it's looking for other ways to either one, drive your own prices down through, new resources, new material lists, whatever that may be, or just really educating the consumer and the client by adding more value, right? Just giving them more value to make up for some of the costs there. So no, absolutely. So what separates entrepreneurs, right, who decide, just based on what we're saying, to scale down in a downturn compared to those that actually just fold and close up their business? What are things that you're seeing out there right now?
I think it's important that you're courageous and that you fight through and push through, because it's so easy to give up, especially when you start seeing that downturn in sales. That happened to me with my brick and mortars, and I was, really shaken by that. But I had to figure out what ways can you pivot your business so that you can still remain in business. Are you going to pivot your business model? How have you worked on your branding so that your customers still want to buy your products and services from you? And I think those things are very important, because we can sit back and get sick and feel, these are the things that I go through, right? Feel nauseous or I can just take action and really try to figure out, okay, what are my new marketing strategies going to look like? Do I have new products that I can bring to market, new services that are super attractive to my audience?
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, for those that are just tuning in, you see, there's two of us here today. Tina unfortunately couldn't be on today's show, right? She's not feeling well. So just a shout out. I wanted to say, I hope Tina's feeling better or well soon so she can join us. But yeah, I even think about that, like even in these times, right? Tina just went through some big shifts.
Yeah.
She moved all at once. She got married, right? So she has all these things that are happening. And she was even like, you know what? I think Tony and I are going to do something a little bit different. We're just going to get this marriage going, the thing that matters the most, right? Like locking things in. And that's due to also just some of these shifts that we're all experiencing in the economy. I think it's really interesting when we think of Recession-Proof. Most people are like, what kind of business model can I create? What kind of plan can I create that absolutely is not impacted at all? And I would say that in the past, there used to be a few models. Like when you think of services that people absolutely need all the time, that pretty much caters to that. But even those have been impacted.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah. I mean, really, like just regular consumption of goods. And so it really means that we have to be creative. And one of the things that I highlighted here in my notes for our conversation today is like, what's one of the key elements in creating a recession-proof business? One of them, I think, is mindset, just as a whole. And so, most people think that, mindset is something that's, just for developing self. But by creating that, it allows you to have that is your bulletproof, if anything, right? It's the one thing that if you develop a strong mindset, then you'll never be emotionally bankrupt. And that doesn't mean, I think you just said a minute ago, sometimes when we're feeling sick to our stomach and, all these things, I mean, we're going to be impacted by those things, but it's the resilience of how quick you can bounce back from them, right?
Exactly. And I think the mindset is so important, because these things do not last forever. I mean, we've seen the downturn in the real estate economy many years back.
Yes.
And you have to be able to figure out how you're going to survive and keep growing your business. In fact, I was listening to a YouTuber not too long ago, and he was talking about, and this is outside of just recession-proof, but it's like branding yourself in the online space for many years. Time, right? While you're working full time. And by the time you're like, okay, maybe you're even young and want to retire, you have this brand that's already established, so people can purchase the different products that you may bring about. And that's the same thing that we're talking about with this economy, right? Or recession proofing your business. I used to think the same thing, Robert, like, oh, okay, the lipstick business, the cosmetic business is recession-proof, healthcare. These are the things that I need to be focusing on. But no, at the end of the day, anything can happen. So you need to be able to figure out however you branded your company, your personal brand, and we'll talk a little bit about that later as
Yeah.
well. But if your mindset is in the space of I'm going to succeed, and that you already know that you're going to have challenges along the way, then you're able to push through those challenges when they arise.
Absolutely, absolutely. Scaling, is a word, a term. It's probably been overused a lot in the last few years. But if you can't scale mentally, then you absolutely cannot scale physically in your business, and that's just a fact, right? You have to figure out how to expand when things matter, and of course contract as well, right? Not necessarily your mindset, but other things. So let's talk about like that second step. Talked about mindset to build a bulletproof um, I'm sorry, to build a bulletproof, recession-proof business. But the other thing would be money. So, what are some things that we do typically when we're in these economies? Like, what are some positive things that come out of this when when it comes to handling and managing our money?
Yeah, and I think it's important that we actually kind of prepare for these things. And sometimes we can actually have some savings that can support us along the way when these things arise. But I think preparedness is important, but also being able to come up with unique products that are going to be exciting, that are very impactful, that really help a person or their business or whoever you support really have a result can
Mhm.
help you to continue to bring in that revenue and that income.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's, again, it's these times that educate us on like the areas that we are overspending and being wasteful, right? Usually when the economy is doing well, and I'll just throw marketing out there. Marketing is probably the biggest thing I could sit and talk about when it comes to where I should, be more creative and do a little more due diligence when it comes to how I spend my money in that space. When things are going well, even if you're wasting money on marketing in certain areas that aren't producing any results, you tend to just kind of overlook those things and you let those ads run, right? I know you're shaking your head because we've both been there where we throw money at things. The economy is doing well, our business is doing well, and we're thinking, you know what, we're just going to keep letting these things ride. When really, in many cases, it can add up to like 10, 15% of wasteful spending in our business. So I feel like also when it comes to the economy, when it comes to a rescission, these are the times that you really evaluate what matters and how are we actually, what are areas that we're actually getting results in. I always like to eliminate the waste and double down on the things that are actually producing some type of activity for me.
Exactly. And for me personally, some of the things that I look at our team, because you know that I love team members, I rely heavily on them and they excite me and light me up. But do I really need all of those team members? So sometimes it's a matter of
Yeah.
how, like you said, are they helping you to actually bring revenue into the business, or are you just paying them for things that maybe you can temporarily handle at that
Right.
time? And the other thing is tools. So typically, quarterly, I usually do this. I know some people do it monthly, so the more you can do it, the better. Just go down your bank statement and see what are all the things that that you're actually paying for. There's a lot of subscriptions that people sign up for and forget that they have. So
Yeah.
also important is just to look at your monthly expenses and what are some of the things that you don't have to spend money on, and even like going to Starbucks all the time, right?
Oh, it's so true, right? It is. And by the way, when you talk about subscriptions, I laughed because it's not just in business, it's in life, right? So when you think of, I remember, it's going to use this as an example, and I'm sure that our listeners can resonate with this later, and that is the fact that cable got up to $150, $200 a month or whatever, and you were like, oh, this is just so expensive. I only watched like 4 or 5 channels consistently. So then streaming came around and you're like, that's where I'm going, right? So you started with that Netflix subscription and you cut out the cable, and then it's like, oh, but kids really like Disney, right? So I'm going to get Disney too. And then, oh, I really like this series, but it's on, HBO Max, and it just keeps going. And next thing you know, you have like, you're sitting there at like 10, 12 different subscriptions and you're back to that $200 a month. So it is interesting, but it is a time to evaluate. I know that like for us, I enjoy sports. However, it's seasonal, right? So do I need the package all year, or can I activate things like just during the playoffs or, the season that I actually want to watch? And so there are all those little things, but you're right. Like when things are going well, we overlook those things, but it is still wasteful spending. So, I guess in hindsight, when the economy is suffering, then it is a great time to look internally, look at everything, look at our budgets, look where we're at, and make those moves that we probably should have made years ago, right?
Definitely. And the other thing I think I want to talk about too, when it comes to mindset and that financial piece, is sometimes it's best to like not look at your 401k or your investments, because that can really scare you when things are down. Let it sit sometimes, unless you have, a really strong financial advisor that's giving you the proper advice. Just kind of go through that time period.
That's the mindset. The mindset is this the worst time ever? Or is this the best time ever? And so that's really the shift, because you're right. I'm so glad you brought up investments. By the way, for those that are listening, big whales, right? Big corporations, they actually are depending on people selling off during this time so that they can capitalize on it, right? This is the time that they're buying. And that's really the mindset. The mindset is, again, not to be wasteful, but if you feel like you can afford, don't at the expense of your kids not having food, let's not do that. But if you can afford to double down on some investments, this is the time to do it, especially if you feel like those are things that are going to rebound at some point in time.
And they will. I mean, and that's just part of the fear that people have.
It is. Yeah. I mean, we can see it. Like historically, you look back and every 10 years-ish, we see these trends. And so if we can look backwards and we know that allows us to predict some of the things that happen in the future, these are the times to do that. The other thing is too, so we're talking about buckling down on finances and other things, but I think this is a great time, and you covered it a little bit, but to really niche down your business. Because right now, I know that, when things are just booming, you're trying new things out, you open new divisions of your business, you're introducing other products and services. And so for many of us, we're very broad with our services. And so this is a great time to also look at just like, how can I really niche down, and what is going to serve people the best or the most in this economy? So are you doing things like that now? Are you seeing that, or with even your clients?
Yeah, definitely. I think niching down is really important because, like you said, I've also been very broad in some of the things and offerings that I have as well. But it's important to look at what's going to create that impact for your audience at this time, what price points are people actually buying into at this time, and kind of niching the business in an overall way that makes sense for people to financially invest in your business or services. And there are people who are still buying high ticket, but what offers are you positioning that make the most sense for them to actually want to be willing to spend that type of income or money with you?
Right. Are you solving their immediate problem? Right. That's what I'm always going back on. And the other thing is too, I find that when people in desperate times, like most are facing right now, just financially, when they're thinking of like, oh, the economy, this is all that's going on. All you feel is this negative energy that they're like, we need more, we need to expand. So they're looking for more clients. They're scrambling, looking for more dollars. And I think this is a great time to just really understand your client base, what it is they need. And first and foremost, like hone in on the ones that are already doing business with you, right? That low hanging fruit, as we've talked about before.
Yeah. And also taking a look at building recurring revenue. That's actually something that I've been very focused on. And I've talked about this on a show for the last couple of years now. When I first got into the coaching space, it was like high ticket. I was very focused on high ticket. I did like low ticket programs, but they were very short programs just to get people into my world. And that strategy can work. But I'm so glad that I focused on building that recurring revenue, because I have guaranteed income every single month from low ticket products. It could be, in my case, for example, SaaS. It could be memberships. And these people want to continue to pay me. They will stay in my world over a year long, versus like, maybe if I sell someone something high ticket, they're done in 3 months or 6 months, and then they've moved on to another coach. I love the recurring model and also affiliate income. I know some of you guys are in network marketing as well.
Right.
These are ways that you can actually really bring in. I know they're smaller amounts, but they add up.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Circling back around to mindset real quick, because I had this in my notes and I didn't want to overlook it. I absolutely love this, right? What is one mindset shift that every entrepreneur needs to make today? And I think this really just really captures it in its essence. Instead of asking yourself, like, what if this doesn't work? Because we all do that, right? It's like, oh, what if this doesn't work? Like, should I even put the effort and the money behind this? Instead of even asking that, reframe it as in, what if this is the moment that every single thing changes, right? Like, what if this is the moment that everything changes? And when you do that, what I have found, that even if that first step isn't the solution, just having that mindset reframed makes me take the next step, right? It's like I continue to dig deeper, peel back more layers until I finally find the solution. But when you're already accepting, like, what if this doesn't work and it's already defeated, then you tend to kind of sit in that, right? You're sitting in that pain and that loss before it ever even happens. And then so even if you do go in and you're trying to test it out and it doesn't work, you're almost accepting the fact, like, yeah, I knew that wasn't going to work. Like, I told you so, right? And
Right.
then you never move towards the solution, right?
Yeah, you're just making an excuse for yourself. And I love that mindset shift, Robert. I'm glad you shared that because when you're in that space, you go all in. And when you
Yeah.
go all in, that's when I see the magic happening. And sometimes you're right, it could take time. Maybe that first step is not the right step, as you mentioned, but at least your mindset is in a space of, I'm going to solve this problem. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to make sure that this opportunity happens for me in my business.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, for those that are just tuning in across all of our platforms and our podcasts, we're talking about recession proof or delusional, right? What it takes to thrive in this current economy, which this is a good baseline. This is a good, I should say, a test pilot for us to figure out really how we should make these changes in our life and in our business. And and again, for those that are just kind of finding us for the first time, follow, like, and share us all across social media. You can find us at pretty much across the board at Uncensored Entrepreneurs. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/uncensored entrepreneurs. And really soon, which probably by the time this even airs, we are going to be on Spotify and Apple, which is something that we've been trying to get done. We've been testing some things out there for a while. So we're pretty excited about that shift in 2025. Also, we're always looking for new guests that we can interview on the show and people that would like to sponsor the show as well. So with that being said, rescission proof, again, it's a hot word. There's courses all across social media and everyone's claiming to have the magical answer of how to create this rescission proof business. And I know that years ago when I was involved in brick and mortar, it was a very hot word, right? There were certain things that people would hone in on, like, creating a laundry mat, or, just certain things that people needed on a, auto care facility. Whether the economy is good or bad, people still need to have good tires, right, to get their car on the road. But even those days are gone. People are, putting Band-Aids, if you will, on their equipment, their machinery, their cars, their homes, just to kind of get by. And people are cutting out expenses, which means that, you thought at one time vending machines and laundromats were rescission proof, but even those are impacted because most people are like, you know what, I'll figure out a new way to do this. Maybe I should just spend the $200, get my own machine and do it at home. So there's all these different things that people do. And so really the only thing that we can rescission proof, as we've been saying, is really our attitude, the self, the inner perspective of what it takes to keep moving forward under any circumstance. And I think the best way, you brought it up a little bit earlier, alluding to the fact of building your personal brand, working on your personal brand and your business brand during these hard times. What are you seeing out there right now, Star?
Personal brand is everything. I see so many entrepreneurs, 7-figure, even 8-figure entrepreneurs who have had to shift And guess what? Their audience is following them. It's like they've got the hot thing. I want what they have to offer. So when you focus on your personal brand, people are actually buying into you. And I know, Robert, this is your expertise, so you'll go all in.
Yeah.
But they're interested in what you have to say. And it's like, hey, I love the work that he or she has been doing. They've helped me achieve this result in the past. Now this is the next thing that they're offering, and they want that from you. So people have been able to, even some of our guests that we've had on the show, they've talked about how they work for different companies or they've been in certain brands, and now they've completely had to shift to a different company or start their own business, and they're succeeding. They're having success because they have built that audience and they've focused on the personal brand, and people are buying into them.
Absolutely. Like products and services, they come and go.
Yeah.
They absolutely do. And we're talking about the economy in its current state. They absolutely come and go. And some things are obsolete, like they're just gone. And so the one thing that stays and remains constant under anything, any circumstance, is you, as long as you continue to work and develop yourself. That's one thing that no one can take away. People can absolutely shift your entire business. They can throw tariffs on things. They can throw other impacts against your shipping of goods, and that impacts you like financially. But the one thing that cannot be taken away from you is the work that you continue to build on yourself, the image that you have both internally, externally, and your business, right? Making sure that those things are in alignment. And I love the fact that it's typically a very inexpensive thing to do. Yes. And yet we make it, like such a big thing, like a big task to be able to do this. So, during these times, I know even for myself, I'm looking at different ways of repositioning and even shifting some of my own products under some, maybe some sub brands along the way that serve a certain audience differently. And just, so for me, I know some people are going to hate hearing this. I'm kind of excited whenever we reach these moments in life, because when things are going well, Star, how many coaches are out there claiming that it's the easiest industry in the world and anybody in the coaching space can make money, right?
Too many. Everybody's screaming from the rooftops, you can make all this money, come work with me. And it's those who really have, like you said, focused on the mindset. They have that resilience within them going through these rough times. And if you can make it during the hard times, what's going to happen when we're thriving again? You're going to be beyond successful.
Oh, absolutely. This is the time to build anything. It doesn't matter what you're doing. This is the time to build. And so again, in a lot of those things do not require, again, many people have the scarcity mindset where it's like, if I'm going to build, if I'm going to scale, if I'm going to market, in a much more broader way, then that's going to cost more money. And so that pain point, that scarcity mindset prevents them from taking action, when really some of these shifts we're talking about, if you're listening in, are things that you can do for little to sometimes no money, right? It's just a shift. It's a change in the way that we spend our money and spend our energy currently.
And I think it's so important to focus on building that personal brand, building a following and your audience. So figure out where you're going to focus on. Is it going to be Facebook? If you're focused on growing your Facebook audience for 12 months straight, every day consistently, or is it going to be YouTube? Can I put out 1 to 2 YouTube videos every single day for the next 12 months? You're going to have a strong foundation, and also growing your email list so you can take your people with you. If anything happens, we're talking about the economy, but Facebook could go away tomorrow. I mean, there's been platforms that have gone away, right? So I think it's very important that as you're building your personal brand, you're building that audience who is buying into you at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. I'm so glad that you brought that up. Let's talk about that for a moment. It wasn't really even on my list of conversation, but really, like, spending the time on your CRM is so crucial. I just spoke at an event last week, and there was a group of realtors and a few other kind of service-based industries. We started talking about their CRM. And there's so many businesses. I mean, I would say that really 90% of all businesses that I currently work with really don't focus on their CRM. They're still, pen and paper or typing things in their calendar, and they think that's their CRM. Like, keeping track of who they're going to reach out to today and tomorrow, instead of, an actual system that nurtures the process of the people that you spoke to a year ago, and those that actually told you at one point in time, not today, right? And so, like, what about those people? I know that you and I both spend a great deal of time, and I have been spending even more time developing and honing in on my own CRM. What are some things that you're doing currently, Star, in regards to, just developing and nurturing your clients, in an automated way?
Yeah, so it's very important that, number one, you are growing that CRM, your email list, you're actually staying in touch with those people. So for me, I leverage Facebook communities. You can also use lead magnets. So that is a form of a lead magnet. So what is something that you can offer people in exchange for their contact information so that you can continue to sell to them? Oftentimes people are like after that next customer, that next client, and you've got all this money sitting there already in your CRM. And so some of the things that you can do are like a database reactivation, where people have purchased from you before, or they've maybe opted in. And if you haven't been nurturing your list, it's like a way of starting to nurture them and offering them, free information, as well as like discounts or coupon codes for them to come into your world and actually start spending money with you again.
Right.
And, like you said, Robert, having a nurture email sequence is also important when we talk about that nurturing campaign. So when people come in to your email list, there's a way that you can start nurturing them where they can see videos of you, where you do free trainings, free information, giving them those free resources so that they're starting to connect with knowing who you are, what you offer, and how you can actually support them. And then from there, you're not just constantly selling to them, right? You're actually nurturing them with value.
Yeah, absolutely. Star, you just gave away the secret. You just told every single person that listens to this episode exactly how to build and build their brand first and foremost, but to continue to build their business. It really is all about that. We're always thinking shiny object, like what's the next thing, when really, if you've done a really good job in aligning your personal brand with the right product and service and the audience that's looking for that product and service, right? To be able to solve their problem, that pain point. If you've done that right, if you've done that correctly, then it doesn't matter if it's you also picking up the phone each and every day, reaching out to them, or whether it's an email that you're sending off or something in Messenger, any type of nurturing process of staying in touch. When they're ready to buy, they will buy, right? Most consumers hate to be sold to. We hear this over and over, but we all love to buy. But it has to be on our terms and our time. And so the only way that's going to happen is if you're constantly in front of them, offering them value through education. And that's what we have to continue to do on a regular basis. What are some, any other last thoughts before we kind of close out today's show? In regards to just, recession-proofing your business, what to do, what are some steps, other things that people can do in the current economy?
I think just staying very consistent and motivated. If your business and your brand is something that is something that you want to focus on long-term, stay consistent with it, even if you're not seeing the results or the income or the revenue that you currently want to see. Because like I said, things are going to shift. They're not going to stay this way permanently. And you're actually building future revenue when you stay consistent, stay creating content, stay in front of your audience. And like you said, with the CRM, growing your following.
Yeah, absolutely. My last thought here, and again, I highlighted it because I thought it was just too good to let pass up. What is the uncensored truth about surviving and scaling right now? It's not about playing safe. It's about being bold with your value, brutal with your focus, and obsessed with your audience. I think that is so key. And I'm really trying to take that internally. Not only when I kind of put that together did I see it and I highlighted it, but then I was like, I put it on my board again because I was like, that is so true. Like, you should be obsessed with your audience. Yeah. It's not what we think they need right now in this, we'll call it a broken economy. It's finding out exactly from them what it is that's going to solve their problem, move the needle. If you do that each and every single time, if you solve someone's problem, you will have business for life.
Yes.
Awesome.
as well.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thank you once again for listening in to the Uncensored Entrepreneurs. We're going to be making a lot of little changes in the next couple of months here. We have some new partners that are coming in and helping us really kind of build this brand up as well. Speaking of building a brand, it's the perfect time to do that, as Star and I have stated today. And hopefully Tina will be joining us again next week. So stay tuned, and we'll see you on another episode, Thursdays, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.